Good day, everyone. Today we are taking a deep dive into the house of Kosmala. Kosmala is one of my favorite fragrance houses, and sadly, they have still continued to fly a little bit under the radar. In my opinion, they are still underappreciated. Their first fragrance was only 10 years ago, and they finally started gaining a little bit of notoriety around 2018 when they released what I call their number line. They have a wide range of quality fragrances. Their performance 9 times out of 10 is solid, well above average. Retail, they go for around $220 from discounters, usually well under $100. And especially at that price, the bang for your buck is unreal. You can try Kosmala at most Dillard's. They usually have them, among other places. But where in the line should you start? Well, you've come to the right place. Today, we are going to go through every single Kosmala fragrance I own and some that I don't. Strap in, sit back. This is going to be quite a long video. I hope I haven't bitten off more than I can chew, but if there's something in particular you're looking for, I have chapters listed below. Jump around as needed, but I would also suggest watching the whole thing. These are fragrances that I thoroughly enjoy, and you just might find more than you came looking for. Sit back, relax, strap in. I'll be right back and we'll get started. All right, welcome back. Before we get started, please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, do everything you need to do so you don't miss any future related fragrance content here on my channel. We're gonna start with number 1, Tonic Blanc. This is a fresh and breezy citrus white floral fragrance, a big neroli note. But you also get some bergamot and musk in the base. This fragrance is undeniably inspired by Tom Ford's Neroli Portofino, and you know what? This is the best Neroli Portofino inspired fragrance I have ever tried. It doesn't get talked about too often, but there are a lot of Neroli Portofino inspired fragrances, some from Nichane, one from Acqua di Parma, Bulgari. But in my opinion, Kosmala number 1 Tonic Blanc is the best. The biggest reason is that it smells the best. It is natural smelling and just really nice. But another advantage that not too many people know about is just how long lasting this stuff is. This lasts longer than any other Neroli Portofino inspired fragrance I've tried. Arm's length projection, but it'll last 9 to 11 hours. Again, high quality stuff. Number 1 Tonic Blanc, I give an 8 out of 10. Next up, number 2 Seve Nouvelle, and again, they're kind of riffing off Tom Ford. Seve Nouvelle is a beautiful, warm, spicy, woody fragrance. Yeah, more an amber woody fragrance with a pretty strong leather vibe from a cashmere wood note. Oh, cashmere and labdanum. There's a big saffron note in this, as well as water pepper, some unusual notes. And they're especially unusual when I tell you what this gets compared to. This smells a lot like Tom Ford's Tuscan leather. You cannot miss the similarities, but this is actually closer to Byredo's black saffron. There's a sweetness to it, but it's not quite the fruity sweetness that you get with Tuscan leather. I also find it a little bit more fresh than Tuscan leather. It's very well done, and again, $65 from Joma Shop. You can't beat it with a stick. Not for this quality of fragrance. High quality fragrance, but also my standards today are pretty high. I'm giving this a 7.5 out of 10. Moving right along to number 3, we have Crepuscule Ardent. I think that's how you pronounce it. And this is another Tom Ford inspired fragrance. And this too also has a strong leathery vibe. This reminds me a lot more of ombre leather than it does Tuscan leather, though it does have some Tuscan leather in it. It's almost like layering the two, but definitely doing more sprays of ombre leather. Simply put, it's like 75% ombre leather, 25% Tuscan leather. This one is super interesting to me and one of my favorites from the house. It is, again, a high quality leather fragrance. It's an authentic, realistic leather fragrance. Almost a leather couch or a new car seat leather scent, which is much like ombre leather, but there's also saffron on this, which makes it a little bit closer to Tuscan leather, or even number 2, Seve Nouvelle. So there are definite similarities between number 3 and number 2, but I don't find them redundant, just like I don't find ombre leather and Tuscan leather redundant. But again, this is one of my favorites. I give it a 9 out of 10. Next up, we have number 4, Apres L'Amour EDP. This is one of their most popular fragrance, if not still their most popular fragrance. This is the fragrance that put them on the map. It's sweet. It almost has a kind of a cotton candy vibe on top of an ambery musky scent. This fragrance is heavily inspired by BR 540. And if you're seeing a pattern here, good, because it's not subtle. The vast majority of Kosmala fragrances are heavily inspired by other popular fragrances. Some are super close, others aren't quite as close, but you see what they're doing. They're trying to improve upon what has already been done. They get a pretty low rating for originality, but again, I love what they do because they do add their own thing. And they added their own thing here. I don't wear BR540. BR540 to me is too feminine. It's too feminine on me. They tampered down a little bit of the sweetness here. They made it a little bit more musky here. For that reason, I think it's quite a bit more unisex, a little bit less feminine. BR540 inspired fragrances have been done to death, but this is one of the best, if not the best. It's certainly my favorite BR540 inspired fragrance. This is not a bold scent. This is not something that you really pick up much on, but others around you will. It's ethereal, it's airy, and the performance is incredible. This thing is a sillage monster. It's gotten me tons of compliments. And like BR540, it's also really good for layering. This works very well with Creativentus and those type of fragrances, as well as many other fragrances. It's apparent to me why this is their most popular. I give it a 9.5 out of 10. All right, we're gonna break from chronological order for a moment. They put out a flanker to number 4 Apres L'Amour called Apres L'Amour Elixer, or Elixer de Parfum. I don't own it, I have smelled it, and they have added an almond note, which tells me all I really need to know about that fragrance. The original Apres L'Amour EDP is closer to the original BR540 EDP. Number 4 Apres L'Amour Elixir is much closer to BR540 Parfum. It too added that almond note. Again, I don't own it. I haven't spent too much time with it, but I do remember it being a little bit fuller, a little bit heavier, a little bit sweeter. And like this, it does it very well. I give it an 8 out of 10. All right, back to chronological order. We're gonna touch on number 5, and forgive my pronunciation or mispronunciation, Frenesie? I don't know, sorry. It's an amber floral fragrance that leans feminine. I have not spent too much time with it, so I will not rate it. But if you're into amber floral fragrances, that might be one you will want to consider. And like number 5, number 6, Brume Radieuse, again, forgive the mispronunciation, is not a fragrance I have too much experience with. I have worn it on a number of occasions, but it's one that I don't own and it's not really one I'm crazy about. It's a fruity oud coconut fragrance, again in the style of a Tom Ford fragrance. A fragrance called Black Orchid, which again is a fragrance that I'm not crazy about. If you do like Tom Ford Black Orchid, it's one you might want to check out. But in all fairness to the fragrance, I'm not going to rate it here. And then there's number 7, Les Sels de la Terre, something like that. Again, sorry. It's a very nice citrus C-note fragrance with some aromatics. It's light and fresh and unisex and very natural smelling. It reminds me a lot of something that Francis Kurkdjian would do. One of those lighter, fresher MFK fragrances. It's one that I don't own, but I hope to one of these days. It's one that I like a lot. Just a really nice, fresh spring, summer, daytime scent. But again, I don't have as much experience with that one, so I will not rate it here. Moving on back to the ones that I own, number 8, Tonic Vert. And like number 7 before it, this is a light, fresh, citrus woody fragrance. And again, the citruses here are very natural smelling. This fragrance is all about the lime and vetiver, and it's more a vetiver fragrance than it is anything. Though this fragrance I don't think was inspired by Goldfield and Bake's Bohemian Lime, there are similarities. However, this adds a mint note that makes it a little bit different. I think it's the lime and vetiver that give it those similarities. Perfect for the spring, summer. It works great at the office. It's just a really nice, fresh, natural smelling daytime scent. And also kind of like number 1, Tonic Vert, it's a long lasting, natural smelling, fresh daytime scent. The projection on me is average, but it is long lasting. It's one that I like a lot. I give it an 8 out of 10. Next is number 9, Bukhoor, I think is how you pronounce it. They switched to a Middle Eastern name for this one, and this is a strong, smoky oud fragrance. Number 9 is challenging stuff. There's no rose or saffron to smooth things out. It's all about that pretty challenging oud note. It's a bold, smoky, animalic oud note. There's quite a bit of that infamous barnyard vibe to it. Number 9 is definitely for oud enthusiasts, and I don't think it's for anyone else. It's not a beginner's oud fragrance, but if you do have a nose for, more challenging oud fragrances, it's one that you probably should try. Number 9 is definitely the most challenging in the line. And when you're at the Thomas Kosmala counter trying them all, it's the one that sticks out like a sore thumb. It's one that really wasn't made for my taste, so I probably shouldn't rate it, but I will. I give it a 3 out of 10. It's not for me. And I like oudy fragrances, but it's just too much. Moving on to number 10, which I also don't own, but I have some experience with it. It translates to Heart's Desires. And I think of number 10 as kind of a sister fragrance to number 4, Apres L'Amour, the EDP, the original. It has some similar notes. It's a big ethereal fragrance. It's a musky fragrance. You have lemon zest, musk, amber, much like number 4, Apres L'Amour, and it too smells quite a bit like BR540. But honestly, I find it actually closer to number 4 than I do BR540. Like number 4, it's not a strong, bold scent. Again, it's not a fragrance that you'll smell very much, but others will pick up on it as they walk by you. It's almost a pure, clean, sweet musk. It kind of has a clean skin scent vibe, much like Le Labo's Another 13. In fact, I think it kind of smells like layering BR540 with Another 13. Somewhere between those two fragrances, you have number 10. Next to number 4, number 10 was probably their second most popular fragrance, or at least in the beginning. If you like those barely noticeable clean skin scent vibes, that's number 10 is one you should try. It's good at what it does. I give it a 7.5 out of 10. Number 11 is called Super Amber, and again, I don't own it, but everything I just said about number 10 also goes for number 11. Smelling number 4, number 10, number 11 for the first time back to back, you're gonna think, my goodness, these all smell the same. Or at least that's how I was when I first smelled them. But really diving deep into them, number 10 is much more that pure musk fragrance. Number 11, Super Amber, is more a pure amber fragrance. There's a soft woodiness and a soft incense note as well. And like that muskiness in number 10, that amber is not something you really pick up on, but others will pick up on it as they walk by you. It reminded me a lot of Bond No. 9's Governor's Island. Again, that pure amber with a little bit of incense. Or if you've tried MFK's Grand Soir, think of Grand Soir taking out the vanilla. Now that I've tried it a few times, I do find it a little bit heavier, a little bit warmer than number 4 or number 10. It's not my jam, but it is good at what it does. I give it a 7 out of 10. All right, we are now done with the original number line, but again, number 4 was so popular, it spawned a few flankers. We've already talked about number 4 Elixir. Let's now talk about number 4 Candy. Number 4 Candy was the first flanker, I believe. And this is a very sweet fragrance. They took the cotton candy vibe from number 4 and just turned it up to 11. They added some fruitiness, some red fruitiness, a berry-like fruitiness. There's cherry, there's also raspberry. To me, this smells like straight sugar. Fragrances this sweet kind of confuse my nose a little bit. My wife, however, really enjoys this stuff. On me, I give it a 4 out of 10. It's not something that I could wear. On me, it leans feminine. On her, however, it smells very good. I give it a 7 out of 10 on her. And next up, we have my personal favorite Thomas Kosmala fragrance, and that is number 4 Neon. This came out at the end of 2023, and I took an immediate liking to it. In fact, this was pretty high up on my best of 2023 favorite fragrance list. This fragrance is a big, realistic mango fragrance. The mango is the starring player from beginning to end, though it does have ozonic and aldehydic qualities to it. It also has other citruses. It has yuzu, and as well as a melon note. But again, everything is there just to support that delicious mango note. If you've smelled Mind Games Blockade, try imagining the mango from this fragrance taken out of this fragrance and a fragrance built just around the mango note. That's this in a nutshell. And I remember back to the first time I wore this fragrance. Roughly 4 hours into the experience, I smelled it and I was almost convinced that I had put on Mind Games Blockade. It's a very similar mango note, but again, a pretty different experience. There's really no Aventus DNA in number 4 Neon. For a fragrance this fresh and natural smelling, the performance is insane. It lasts forever. It's a projection monster. It's a sillage monster, and it smells amazing. And though this is made for spring and summer, I wore this throughout the winter last year. It's one of those under the radar fragrances that I highly recommend going and getting your nose on. It's one of their best. Number 4 Neon, I give it 10 out of 10. All right, last for the number 4 flankers, we have number 4 Sport. And I blind bought this at the same time that I bought number 4 Neon. They came out around the same time, and I was a little bit disappointed with this one. There aren't too many similarities between this and any of the other number 4 flankers. It's almost like they had this really fresh designer fragrance that really didn't know what to do with it, so hey, let's throw number 4 on there. It's worked for us before, what the heck. And though I wasn't very impressed when I first got it, it has grown on me a little bit. It's pretty synthetic, sweet. Its color is green, but to me it's more a blue fragrance. It smells like a nice men's designer blue fragrance. Citrus notes and fruity notes as well as C notes. But there are some unusual notes like agave and melon. With those C notes, it kind of makes it sound more interesting than it really is, but again, it's not a bad scent. I don't see anybody disliking this fragrance. Again, it's masculine leaning and it performs pretty well. It's fine at what it does. I just don't think it lives up to the standards that the previous number 4s have set. It is what it is. I give it a 7 out of 10. All right, we're done with the number 4 flankers. Let's now jump to the Bandana Collection. There are 3 fragrances in the Bandana Collection, which were released earlier this summer, early in the summer of 2024. I remember walking into Dillard's and, been taken aback. There were 3 new Thomas Kosmala fragrances. The first one I tried, I remember spraying it on a tester strip. My eyes lighting up, my world changing a little bit. I immediately sprayed it on my hand. I walked around the mall the next 30 minutes and then went right back to Dillard's and for the first time ever spent that Thomas Kosmala retail money and bought this from Dillard's. Now you can find this on Joma Shop for $85, and for that price, if you like Creative Ventus, yes, it took them way too long to do a Creative Ventus inspired fragrance, but they finally have, and it's amazing. I did a big review here on YouTube about this. If you haven't, go back and watch it. This is a smoky Creative Ventus batch. The pineapple smells juicy and luxurious, but it's backed by a pretty smoky woodiness. But also what I find interesting about this, after, I don't know, 90 minutes, 2 hours, it doesn't really dry down like Creed Aventus. In fact, it starts drying down a lot more like Nishane Hasavat X. The smokiness dissipates, the fruits and citruses dissipate, and it dries down to a much more woody, mossy fragrance. Again, much like Nishane Hasavat X. If I'm being quite honest, this does not perform quite as well as some of the others, but man, it does smell good. And again, if you are a Creed Aventus fan like I'm a Creed Aventus fan, it's one you should at least try. Go to Dillard's, get your nose on it. And again, for $85 from Joma Shop, it's one that I can easily suggest, again, to Creed Aventus lovers. Oh, and by the way, I give Wild Stride a 10 out of 10. And it's my second favorite, only to number 4 Neon. Next in the Bandana Collection, we have Star Chaser. This is a fruity, floral, woody, everyday scent. There's a big neroli note and a big sandalwood note. And then there's green apple and tonka bean that were seemingly borrowed from Bond No. 9's Lafayette Street, because despite a lot of different notes, this smells so much like Lafayette Street. This is much more natural smelling. To me, it's more interesting, and it's certainly fresher. But I personally enjoy this a lot more than I enjoy Lafayette Street. Performance is impressive, it's long lasting and unisex. You can wear this spring, summer, fall, and winter, daytime or nighttime, though I think it's probably more a daytime scent. It's office safe, it's a little bit more casual than it is dressy, but it's a lovely fragrance. But again, for those Joma prices, it's a good one. I give Star Chaser a 9 out of 10. And last but not least from the Bandana Collection, we have Exsupero. This was the one out of the 3 that I liked. I remember liking it, but thinking, my goodness, that's not anything special. The first thing I smelled on the tester strip was Coach from Mitten. When I bought Wild Stride, they actually made me a sample of this, and I did give it a couple wears after, and it starts off like Coach from Mitten, and it dries down much like Dior Sauvage. For Thomas Kosmala money, for 220 bucks, it was too expensive. I would never pay that for this. But again, for 70 bucks or 80 bucks from Joma Shop, the price is right for a longer lasting Coach from Men or a cheaper Dior Sauvage. It's a nice, clean, masculine, everyday scent. For $220, I give it a 4 or 5 out of 10. But for $70, I give it an 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10 for Exsupero. All right, we're on the home stretch now. We have 4 more to discuss, and these are 4 kind of more under the radar Thomas Kosmala fragrances. One of which I have a full bottle of, and then I have 3 decants. This is Thomas Kosmala, A Never Ending Love. I bought this for my wife, and she adores it. This is a sweet, fresh, natural smelling rose fragrance, a watery rose fragrance. It's a bit musky, it's balanced with some white florals, but again, it's really all about that rose. The rose is kind of like Parfums de Marly de Lina. However, again, it's more watery and much cleaner. Almost a sterile rose with a nice bit of sweetness. Again, this leans feminine, the sillage is beautiful, and it's one my wife loves, and one that I love on her. Again, I wouldn't wear this stuff, but on her, I give this a 9 out of 10, and I think she would agree. A Never Ending Love. The next 3 are much more Middle Eastern inspired fragrances. The first one here is called Arabian Passion. I picked these up at Fragrance Lord. Thank you, Fragrance Lord, for putting these out, because otherwise these are very hard to track down, very hard to get your nose on. This is a warm, spicy, amber, woody fragrance. There's definitely oud in this, but there's also rose and saffron, kind of smoothing out those rough edges. This is nothing like number 9 Bukhoor like we discussed earlier. This is more a traditional rose, oud, saffron fragrance. There's also a little bit of frankincense. This is really nice stuff. Definitely a Middle Eastern vibe. It's unisex, perhaps maybe leaning just a little bit masculine. Like most Thomas Kosmalas, it performs very well. The sillage is very nice. It kind of reminds me of something Raja might do with rose and oud. But that said, it's not really something that I would reach for very often. It's well done. I don't know what I should give it. As far as my taste, what I would wear, I'd give it a 6 out of 10, but it's hard for me to deny the quality. I can still appreciate this. For the scent, for the quality, I give it an 8 out of 10. It's Arabian Passion. Next, we have Bliss in Paradise. And this too is an ambery, woody scent, another oud fragrance. This is also a Middle Eastern oud fragrance, much like Arabian Passion, though this isn't near as spicy. Oud, saffron, oliban. There's also some incense and leather in this one. This is 2 pretty high quality stuff. I think I like this a little bit more than Arabian Passion, though I'm not sure if it's something I'd wear. Personal preference, I give it a 7 out of 10. Quality, I give it a 9 out of 10. Let's average it out to 8 out of 10. If you like those oudy, Middle Eastern inspired fragrances, this is one I can easily recommend. I do like Bliss in Paradise more than I like Arabian Passion. But again, it's not as spicy. Last for today, and we'll show Fragrance Lord some love here by using their tester strip. This fragrance is called Musk Otone. That's better than I remember it. Oh, that's good. This is a powdery, musky, subtle wood fragrance. I believe there's some iris in there. So there's a little bit of that floral element. I would say this is probably more a powdery fragrance than a musky fragrance, though they're balanced pretty well. I was ready to give this a 6 out of 10, but this has grown on me significantly since I last smelled it. There's not too much sweetness to it. It is pretty sophisticated. And despite those powdery notes, I still find this pretty perfectly unisex, if not just a little bit masculine leaning. I say you wear this fall, winter, spring. It does not seem too heavy. You might be able to rock this in summer. Man, okay, that one's growing on me. I give it an 8 out of 10. For those of you who have stuck around to the end, God bless you. I don't know how you did it. It's hard enough talking about all these fragrances for this long, but I hope you enjoyed it. I hope this has been helpful to you. I hope it's been interesting to you. I hope you've learned something. This house is underappreciated. It's a high quality fragrance house that are being sold very affordably. I strongly suggest give them a shot. Go get your nose on it. If you haven't yet, please like the video. Let me know in the comments what your favorite Thomas Kosmala fragrance is. And again, please consider following, ringing the bell, doing everything you need to do so you don't miss me in my next video. Thanks again for being here. I'm Marshall the Scent Addict. Come back and see me next time.